what are you praying for? And you know, we say that our actions are our prayers. And a good psychologist will say, if you really want to know what a person is praying for, look at what they do. That's how you tell. What are their actions? Their actions will not lie. So take that and turn it around on yourself and look at yourself. What are my actions? What am I doing? You know, what's the first thing I do in the morning? What's the last thing I do before going to bed at night? Things like that. You see, learn to recognize your own patterns, because as you do, you're going to find out what you're actually praying for. So your mind thinks it wants something, but your heart, and you use the heart as like a metaphor for the soul, your soul knows what it wants. Your mind is, generally speaking, and usually disconnected from your soul consciousness. Not a good thing, right? So you want to make a lot of your spiritual work about simply discovering who you are, right? And one of the ways we do that is we get to know ourselves. You know, we find out what we're made of. We find out what are the games that we play. You know, how do we try to scam other people? What kind of rackets are we involved in? Like, I'll overlook what you're doing if you overlook what I'm doing. You see, that kind of thing. That's what I mean. And if you work on self-knowledge, you'll know those things about yourself. You won't be afraid to look at them square in the eye. And all of this has to do with the efficacy of your prayer. How powerful is your prayer? And what makes it powerful is how well aligned it is all the way down into the core of you, all the way down. And if you've got any misalignments in there, like, you know, like you're out of whack skeletally and you need to go see a chiropractor, you've got to have a chiropractor for your soul. And you're it, right? You're it. You're the chiropractor for your own soul. So anything that's out of alignment, you got to find out what that is. Find out. And good thing to pray for is to have God show you. But be careful. Be sure you really want to know, because you're going to find out. If that's your prayer, you're going to find out. And if something is out of alignment in your external life, because the conditions in your external life are largely due to your actions, what you're doing. So you can look around at your external life and say, yep, that's what I prayed for. You see, this is it. This is what I got. I prayed for it and I got it. That's it. It's so simple. So you want to avoid the blame game. You don't want to blame other people or conditions like the economy or the son of a bitch in the White House or any of that stuff. You know, the more you do that, the more you're not taking responsibility for yourself. I said that about the guy in the White House because it's a line from a movie, Raising Arizona, one of my favorite movies. So any of these external factors, they're easy to blame your current conditions on, but they're just excuses because you're not in alignment with what you want, what you really want. And we have to kind of make a distinction between what we think we want and what we really want, because the mind is, mind gets easily distracted and by shiny things. So you want to make sure you study your desires, because your desires are not necessarily what you want. We have desires, and then we have these deep soul desires. The head desires and the soul desires, very seldom do they align properly. And that's why people don't believe in prayer, because they're out of alignment and nothing that they pray for gets answered because they're standing in their own way. Now, if you have something that you think that you want, I'm not saying that everything that you think you want is wrong. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that really examine your wants, what you think you want. Really examine them. Examine your desires. So and find out what they are. Like the classical thing in advertising, when when they advertise cars, they're not selling a car. They're not selling you transportation. The number one thing they sell you when they're selling you a car is status. You see, they're selling you status, because why else would you pay $150,000 for a car? Only reason you would pay that, well, unless you really like to drive, then that. But mostly it's just status. That's what they're selling you. So when you say, I want to buy a car, I want a car, I'm going to pray for a car, what are you really praying for? You're praying for transportation, because a Honda Accord will do that really well. But if you're praying for status, then nothing less than a Mercedes Benz is going to do, right? But you got to know that about yourself. You got to know that. And is it wrong? Is it wrong to want status? No, no, of course not. It's only wrong if you're lying to yourself about it. Then it's wrong, you see? But if you're out front, you say, yeah, yeah, I want to look good. I want to have a car that tells everybody that I'm doing all right, and not just all right, but I'm doing really well, that kind of thing. If you can be honest about that, then your prayer will get answered. But if you're fooling yourself, oh, Mercedes Benz is a really reliable car and it's built by Germans. And so we know it's built well and it's going to last forever. And so if I amortize the cost of the car over, blah, 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 blah. You see, that's all bullshit. You're just bullshitting yourself. So get clear about that. Get clear about what you want. And when you do, then when you pray for something like a healing, you're going to have everything's going to be working on the inside. Your pipeline to God is going to be clean, not going to be all twisted and filled with junk.